Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another Second Breakfast podcast. I'm Andy Roth alongside Phil Duvall. Say hi, Phil.
Aloha.
And it's Friday, which means what, Phil?
It means another viewer mailbag.
Another viewer mailbag. You send us the questions, we answer the questions. That's how this relationship works.
Andy, do you feel, first of all, two things. Well, they're the same thing. One is, it's just two sides of the same coin. Do you know why I said aloha?
Why did you say aloha, Phil?
Because I'm from a very different and exotic location.
Where are you?
Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love.
Yes.
Aloha.
Which is the first thing that anyone thinks of when you say aloha.
Well, clearly, maybe the second. But here's the other thing that I wanted to say about it is it means that for the first time ever, you and I are filming from the same time zone.
Audience, I cannot tell you, I am almost moved to tears because because he is not torturing me by making me shoot at ungodly hours.
It's true.
It's true. That's true.
I feel pretty good about myself right now.
You should. You should. You're a prince among men.
Seriously, though, it's a little late. It's a little late here on the East Coast. Can we do this and wrap it up?
Yeah. Wrap it up. Danny, wrap it up. So, three excellent questions this week. But we always need more. So if you like us doing these things, and judging by the numbers you do, send us questions to secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com. All one word,
Yes.
secondbreakfastpodcast@gmail.com. Send them there, and if you bribe us with sweets and other confections, we might use it on the air.
Sweets for my sweet, sugar for my honey.
First question.
Okay.
First question
Yeah.
from Heather.
Hi, Heather.
You touch on the subject in your comic book episode. Nice. You watch our show.
Way to pay attention to the things that we do.
Indeed. But do you think that there are some great works that are so great in their medium that they just can't be adapted well? Andrew, her fiance, another contributor to the podcast. Andrew told me that one of the criticisms of the Watchmen movie was that it was, in some ways, too faithful to the original, Angry Squid Monster aside. To do a good adaptation, should the director and writer bring something new to the work? So I guess that's two questions, right?
It is, but it fits within the same.
You're right. No, clearly related.
Question.
Same world. It's the same world.
Same.
Yes. Would you like to go? Or would you like me to go?
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna.
You're terrible at shooting late. You're punchy. You're insane.
I'm good.
I'm top of my game, and we were just talking about how tired I am.
Okay. Here's the deal. So first of all,
Yes.
to me, the first answer is something that just completely does not. Oh, well, let me answer your question very specifically, Heather, which is that you said it are the things that are too good that they can't be transferred. I don't think there's anything that's too good. I just think there are things that, because of the way that they are written, you can transfer them in some way. So, for instance, I think J.D. Salinger's work. I think because there's not that much of it, we have all of it, at least the published stuff, and I've read all of it. How do you translate J.D. Salinger to a film? How do you translate Franny and Zooey or Catcher in the Rye? And I am amazed that they have never tried to do Catcher in the Rye. I'm amazed.
Yeah.
I'm also grateful.
Yeah.
But I think it's first of all, it's so much about language, and it's so much of an inner monologue. And in Catcher in the Rye, it's inner monologue. In Franny and Zooey, it's monologue. It's like one dude just like talking and talking and talking, and
Right.
it would not translate to film. But it is, by God, it's so good to read.
Yeah.
They've tried to now. That's my first answer. It's not that it's too good, although it is some of my favorite stuff in the entire world. But I do think that so much of the story is in the way that they interact with each other in the conversation, because nothing technically or not much happens. Whereas at least when they try to translate Lolita to the big screen, for instance, with Nabokov, like it's a road it's a road story. It's a road story book. So things are happening, and you can say it's about this thing. So even though you missed out amazingly on the lyrical nature of Nabokov's writing, you at least have a story to tell. But if you can't, there's no story to tell with Salinger's stuff. So the closest you have is Wes Anderson making Royal Tenenbaums, which actually is not about the Glass family at all, but is clearly based on the Glass family. So you have this sort of like extrapolation and the sort of moody extrapolation, which is great. But I think that's impossible. I mean, I think it's really one of those things you just can't do.
Sure.
You know?
You actually said, like, it's almost word for word. I made some notes and I said not necessarily things that are too great, although I suppose that's possible. I think that it's things, as you said, they're inextricably tied to their original medium. I think one of the best adaptations, and this might sound kind of funny, I think one of the best adaptations, because something that springs immediately to mind, novels that are largely internal monologue.
Sure.
I think The Hunger Games did just about as good a job adapting that as can be done. And I agree with you. The last thing you said about Lolita, it's like a road picture, right? Like it's like, at least obviously it's The Hunger Games. You have people shooting arrows at each other and stabbing them. Like, there is stuff to watch.
Sure.
But
exactly.
It really is a separate experience. Whereas, quite frankly, except for the stuff that he leaves out, the experience of reading Lord of the Rings and the experience of watching Lord of the Rings is not necessarily all that different, right?
Pretty similar.
Something else that came to my mind.
Takes longer to read it.
True. The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah.
I liked that movie. I liked it. Yeah. I love the books, and there is
Why is it unfilmable though? Why? Because they're always like, is it unfilmable? Because they always say that, like, you just can't translate it.
Because I think there is something about that sort of absurdist British humor. Because because it's different than like Monty Python, right? Because Monty Python is it's absurdist, but it is conceived as something that should be filmed and viewed.
So right? Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking, right? Godfather was just a pulp novel.
Yep.
Coppola was, at the moment, maybe the most brilliant person to pick up a camera for at least many decades before or since. When he made Godfather, and he made this book that it wasn't that big of a deal into something amazing.
Yep.
And I would say the same with what Scorsese did with Goodfellas from a book called Wise Guys. But here's the thing. Douglas Adams, who wrote Hitchhiker's Guide, is such a singular and such an impressive thinker, and he is a person of his own, like he's in his own stratosphere.
He's his own genre.
So maybe that starts to answer your question, Heather, but then here's the thing. What you need to do is you need to get someone who is just as much of a visionary in another medium, who's willing to do, as you said, make changes and not try to make it exactly that, but catch the feel of it. The best example I can give, which is a really weird example, is the way Anthony Hopkins portrays Richard Nixon and Alfred Hitchcock.
Nice.
Okay? Both of them. Mm-hmm. Which is that he doesn't actually try to make himself be perfectly them.
Right.
And both of them, I mean, Hitchcock and Nixon, we have tons and tons of tape on. He tries to capture who they are within who he is.
Yep.
In a very real way. So, I mean, if a director could do something, you'd have to have a visionary. See, here's the deal. Andy, who directed The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy?
I have no idea.
And that's the problem.
Yeah. No, you're right.
If you're going to have basically someone who changed or who was one of the great voices in modern sci-fi, you need to have one of the great voices in film. That's what it deserves. It needs to be someone who's going to just think way outside the box and blow it out of the water and do something crazy with it. Yeah. And so what you and I both liked about the movie Hitchhiker's Guide is that it's a really serviceable, faithful adaptation.
Right.
With actors that we love.
Yes. And
some interesting choices. I mean, Mos Def as Ford Prefect is a really interesting choice.
Yes.
And a good one. It really pays off.
I'm a huge fan of his in general. He fits right in. There's not a character in that movie that is played by someone that I don't love.
Right.
Alan
So,
Rickman as Marvin.
love Alan Rickman.
Um,
Anyways, that's where I'm going.
another another thing that I think goes even more towards like the unfilmable aspect than that, because I think you're right about that. I think that's really well said. Have you read The Prophet by Khalil Gibran?
Not yet. I have it sitting on my desk. It's like one of those books.
It is just the most beautiful prose in the world. It's unbelievable. But it's literally a dude standing and talking, and someone's like, "Tell us about love," and he talks about love for 2 pages. "Tell us about children," and he talks about children for 2 pages. It's like, this would not make a movie, but you don't mind that in book form, right?
Yeah.
And as for the comment, too faithful, I will. This might be an unpopular opinion, but I think one movie that fell victim to that was the first Hulk movie, Ang Lee's, because comic books, especially comic books that have been going on for decades, they're not wall-to-wall action. So everyone's like, it's not like a comic book because there wasn't a lot of action. Well, okay. I mean, there are a lot of Spider-Man comics where it's Peter Parker, complaining about his love life, right?
Right.
And
I mean, I'll take your word for it. I wouldn't read that.
His prodigious talent. You won't find a bigger fan of Ang Lee.
We love Ang Lee,
outside of his marriage. That's probably not true. But he fell so slavishly he was so slavishly attached to the structure that and I know what he's trying to do. He's trying to be cute, like when somebody explodes, like all of a sudden, like it would become like the frame in a comic book, and it's like you're too close. You need to take a step back. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does, and I think it was really cool watching him try to do it. I remember walking out of that movie, and I was with a friend who just hated it.
Yep.
And I was like, he's like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, "No, I guess not." But I do think I don't. But I mean, I thought it was a noble failure.
That's
I want to tell you like a story, right? So, when I wanted to be in movies and stuff in high school, I was like, I would try to I'd think when we read books, because in high school you're always being assigned books, and I would always try to figure out how to turn them into movies. And so in junior year of high school, I basically started taking on, I was going to adapt. I read Snow Falling on Cedars by David Guterson. It was before the movie came out. It was like before they were even making the movie. And I decided to try to start writing a screenplay of it, which was way overly ambitious for a project. And my English teacher was like, this is overly ambitious. But I tried it anyway. She's like, but, go on, give it a shot.
Go crazy.
And she accepted so much less work than I said I was going to do because she was like, you're ridiculous. But I was basically translating the book word for word into a movie. Because I was like, this is a great scene. Why would you want to do anything with it? What I want to do is try to film. In my mind, I was like, how do I film in my mind? Like what my mind sees when I'm reading the story. Because that's got to be exciting because I'm enjoying this so much.
And yet it doesn't work.
Which I was 16, so that's not.
No, of course.
But yeah. No, I mean it's too literal. I have a problem with that. I would never be a good adaptation person for this very purpose.
Sure.
I just wouldn't. Think. But here's another example of can you film the unfilmable? Watch adaptation.
Yeah.
I mean,
indeed.
They took a book that was not filmable, but they decided to make a movie out of it, and then he made a movie based on the fact that Charlie Kaufman is a genius.
Yes.
And anyways, so I thought that was really great.
So I think that feeds right into my answer to her second question. To do a good adaptation, should the director or writer bring something new to the work? Yes.
Yes. Yes, Heather.
Thanks for writing in, Heather.
But it's a trick. It's a good, but it's a good second question in the sense of
yes.
Here's the deal. Here's the deal. Yes, of course they do, and that might seem obvious, but the point is, your point is well made, which is what goes back to the hitchhikers thing. You have to bring in a whole new, again, another example, right? We've talked about it before, but I'm not sure there has been a more vilified couple of movies in the last few years than the Atlas Shrugged movies. Sure. Which I've seen, and most, which it's ridiculous how vilified they are since no one has seen them.
Right.
Hate things that are taking up our energy and time. Okay, but part of that is because because the liberal establishment really hates Ayn Rand, and that's fine. She doesn't. When she was alive, she hated them, so it's totally. It's not like she's being victimized in her death. This is
Indeed.
if she was alive, she'd be like, "Bring it, girls."
Okay.
But no. But my point is this: Atlas Shrugged, whether you like it or not, has plenty of pulp story that could be told. And if someone was really interested in figuring out how to tell that story, and at the same time, in some way, push forward those politics, or that philosophy, because she's really a political philosopher, a political pop philosopher, but still. But Ayn Rand, for however people love her or hate her, was a very singular mind. A really weird, out there, freaky chick. And if you're going to do something like that, like one of the reasons this movie didn't do well is they just basically grabbed one of her acolytes who was willing to make it, and they made the movie. And like you have to get someone who's going to be
3.
No, it's only 2. Is it 3? Okay, well, whatever.
I don't know that they're making the 3rd one because, as you said, no one has seen either the first 2.
I mean, I was the one who said they should have tried to make it into 3 seasons of an HBO show, television show.
Sure.
But you have to get someone. You got to get like Catherine Bigelow, or you got to get someone like. You got to get someone, get a really strong woman who's willing to take it on and do something crazy with it.
Yeah.
You got to do stuff like that, or it's not really a translation. It's just
fair enough.
I
agree. You have to bring something.
You know what it turns into? It turns into when you watch when you try to get Google, like when you Google says, "Do you want to translate this page?" And you're like, yes, and then it's like
yes,
you are.
So basically, and I know you hate this movie, so it basically turns into the last scene of the Colin Firth storyline in Love Actually.
Yes, I love that scene. Trust me,
it's great. It's
part
great.
of the reason I hate Love Actually so much is because it's so watchable. Like that. True. That's something worth hating. Don't hate something that's not worth anybody's time. Hate something that you've been watched it 20 times, and then you're like, wait a minute. So, anyways,
moving on. Second question from old friend of the podcast, Blake. Hello, Blake.
Hello, Blake.
Favorite female protagonist in an action movie?
Oof. Go hit it.
Easy. Well, honestly, to me, there are only 2, even in the discussion, and that's Linda Hamilton and Sigourney Weaver. And yes. Sigourney Weaver, I like her character more.
Now, from all of the Alien movies, or one specifically?
First 2.
Okay, so Ripley from Alien and Aliens.
Yes.
Okay.
Compared to, say, Linda Hamilton from Terminator and Terminator 2. But I'm going to go with Linda Hamilton, and it's because although I like the character of Ripley more, I think what happens to Linda Hamilton is more interesting. Mm-hmm. And she pulls off the action. I mean, that's got to be part of it, right? That has to be part of best protagonist in an action movie. She goes from truly a helpless diner waitress to someone that a Green Beret would not mess with. I mean, she is horrifying. Like she is
her and the way that they reveal her in Terminator 2 is that it's a revelatory. Like it is it is one of the master strokes of James Cameron's career, what he chose to do with Terminator 2. I get that some people like Terminator 1 more, but Terminator 2, what he chose to do is beyond the pale, and she is really the heart and soul of the series.
I agree.
I mean, the series being those 2 movies. I know there are others, but stop. It is really amazing. She's my favorite. She's bar none my favorite. Yeah. And I mean, Ripley's great, but Linda Hamilton's scary and is an action figure to some degree. Actually, I take it back. She's not my favorite anymore. As of right now, she's not my favorite anymore.
Okay.
Beatrix Kiddo in the Kill Bill movies.
Nice.
I love her so much. Like, that's been on a lot lately, and that character, what she does with that character is something really special and really deep. And I was sitting here trying to think, like, I think when you really watch the Kill Bill movies back to back, that the level, considering how much action she actually gets into, and the fact that this is really just a bloody action movie from beginning to end with a female protagonist, by the way. There's nothing she isn't. She is scary. She is dorky. She is beautiful. She is frightening. She is, like vengeful, thoughtful. Pensive, like reflective, but then at the same time, like ready to go. Like sort of like I don't know. It just really is an all-encompassing role, and she does it. And it's one of those things that because it's a Quentin Tarantino movie, he becomes the star. But the work that she does in that movie and the thing she puts herself through physically to make that movie is just forget it. And I think an honorable mention needs to go to Jamie Lee Curtis in True Lies. because you see the transformation. It's funny you mentioned, because James Cameron made Terminator 1 and 2 and he made True Lies, but in Terminator 1, Linda Hamilton is this sort of helpless waitress. In Terminator 2, she is a crazy badass. You don't see the transition, and that's what's shocking.
Right.
True Lies, Jamie Lee Curtis starts as helpless and ends somewhere near badass, though not totally there yet.
Sure.
But you actually get to see her sort of affirming that and what that's about. It's a great storyline in that movie, by the way.
James Cameron, he does okay by his female leads.
I mean, Mary Elizabeth
Master Antonio in The Abyss. That's exactly what I was going to bring up. Absolutely. It doesn't... Zoe Saldana? Is it Zoe Saldana in Avatar?
As soon as you started to pause, I knew what you were going to say.
Yes.
Can you imagine that the two highest grossing films of all time, Avatar and Titanic, are two movies that everyone's seen, everybody enjoyed, and nobody loves them? Yes. Well, I mean, there are people who love Titanic, but they're kidding. Like, they don't mean it. Like, if you waterboarded them, they would admit it. They would stop. They'd be like, okay, I admit. This is the truth. I recognize that this is a hollow and empty venture. So, anyways.
Yes. Thanks for writing in, Blake. Last question. From longtime listener, first-time contributor, Allison. Hello, Allison.
Oof, good to have you with us, Allison. Seriously.
It is good to have you with us. You've spoken about hate watching and your general inclination to see a movie with the hope of liking it. But is there a movie that you love because of the negative feeling it stirs within you? Are movies an excuse for us to contemplate otherwise shameful thoughts? Name a movie you love despite the negative message it sends about the world, universe, humanity at large. This is really interesting because we just talked about this with Mike Robb. Yeah. The idea of catharsis, the idea that we can take care of some of these baser parts of our nature.
Yeah. Well, we talked about it with him, and we talked about it with Kenny in our Vengeance podcast as well.
That's true. It's a theme. And, of course, in our hate-watching episode. I mean, there was that too.
Yeah. There's a movie on the tip of my tongue, and I'm going to need some time to think about it, but there's another movie that I'll say in the meantime while you're going, which is Apocalypse Now. And it doesn't bring up negative emotions because I think the movie is wrong. But it brings up negative emotions because I think it taps into things I didn't know I thought were right, like the deep brokenness of war is tapped into so viscerally and so. I mean, and talk, by the way, another adaptation that's amazing. We were talking about adaptations. Heart of Darkness. Read Heart of Darkness. Watch Apocalypse Now. Beautiful adaptation. Brilliantly thought about. Brilliantly translated. And the documentary, by the way, Hearts of Darkness, is one of the only documentaries I've ever enjoyed. I'm not. If it's real, I'm less interested immediately. I don't know why. Nice. But Apocalypse Now, when you watch it, doesn't make you feel good about pretty much anything. And I know going in when I'm watching it that that's going to happen, that it's going to do that to me, and I watch it. And it's one of my. I mean, I think it's just I own it. I bought it on purpose. I didn't do it by accident. It's one of those for sure. Sure.
You remember your other movie yet?
No, go. I was too busy talking to think.
There is There's no other way to describe it except as an exploitation flick. Called The Warriors. Directed by Walter Hill.
Warriors come out to play.
Warriors come out to play. Here is the story, threadbare though it may be. There is basically there are a billion gangs in New York City. This is the pre-Giuliani, pre-Disneyfication of Times Square. There are a billion gangs in New York City, and one of them has like a really, really charismatic leader. And so they all go out to the Bronx, okay? Which, if you don't know the geography of New York City, is way, way north, okay? And like if you go past the Bronx, you're not in New York City anymore. Regardless of what people from Westchester say.
Stop with Westchester.
So
can I make fun of Westchester for like 20 minutes someday? Like just
sure,
podcast where I just make fun of kids from Westchester.
Okay. So while he has called everyone to this meeting, what we follow one of the gangs that's like, let's see what this Cyrus guy is all about. They are the Warriors. They are from Coney Island, which is, again, if you don't know the geography, way, way southeast. Right. Okay? On Long Island. So you have to go over 2 bodies of water to get from the Bronx to Coney Island. It is a long way by subway. Hours on the subway. And while they are at the meeting, someone kills Cyrus. And in the ensuing chaos, frames the Warriors for it. And the entire movie is them fighting every other gang in New York City to get back to their home turf. I mean, you call them like anti-heroes because like, get ready to root for the bad guy. These are like, they try to force like sexual conduct. They are miserable people. Miserable people. The worst part of every human being is a character in the Warriors. There are other gangs, female gangs. None of these are good people. All right, like there's not a good person in this entire movie. It is so much fun to watch. It is. I mean, and I honestly think it's that. It is like you can just like sink the Mr. Hyde part of you can sink your teeth into, oh, that guy has a baseball bat and he's going to try to beat me with it. Instead, I'm going to take it from him and I'm going to beat him. And there is nothing deeper to that movie than that.
Yeah.
And it is,
and
for what it is,
it succeeds.
Glorious. Yeah. It is the perfection, the completion of that.
Yeah.
Shall we say artistic goal?
No, we could say that.
I feel a little dirty just having brought it up. That's how much.
Wow.
Yeah. And yet I own it, and if it weren't so late, I might pop it in.
There you go.
And then I'd go like beat up a hobo or something. I don't know.
It's like playing Grand Theft Auto. It's the movie version of playing Grand Theft Auto. What are you doing? Yes. I need some more money. I'm going to go beat up that hooker. Take all her money.
Indeed. Yes.
What?
That is precisely that. That's actually a really good way of putting it.
What are you doing up on that skyscraper? Oh, target practice. What? Stop. I remember the other one.
Good. Go.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Hooky is bad. I'm just kidding. Come on. A little bit of love there. Okay.
I don't like what the East Coast does to you, man.
Woody Allen movies. I've just gotten to the point where I just completely fundamentally disagree with Woody Allen's philosophy in life. He's a complete nihilist. Well, he's not. No, I think he's a nihilist. I mean, I don't know how else to look at it. I mean, he's a principled nihilist. I mean, I think he's believes what he believes. But I watch his movies now, and I'm like, wow, you can see misogyny and self-absorption, not just like in his characters, but in the underlying philosophy of his films, pretty much the entire time. and a sense of just the utter annihilation of humanity. Like it's all there, and like watch Husbands and Wives. I mean, it's
Whoa.
even Crimes and Misdemeanors we rewatched lately.
Absolutely.
Watching Manhattan now after the fact that he married a woman that was when he that whole situation, but
Yep.
and I love Manhattan, and I'd watch it right. I mean, I'd watch it if it was on. I'd watch it. I would leave this podcast, and my wife's never seen it. Oh my god,
Totally
I love
fair.
it. But Manhattan is special. I give it breaks. But really, Woody Allen, and I take him seriously. I mean, I take him as an artist very seriously, and I just think fundamentally as a human, he and I have very different understandings of the world, and
really interesting.
deeply different understandings. And when I was younger, I just thought he was funny and really interesting and an outsider and a nebbish, and I loved all those things.
Right.
But as I've gotten older and really seen his philosophy and really developed my own personal philosophy and theology, I just like when I watch him, but I still watch him.
Yeah.
Like if it's on and it's a movie, I'm like, yeah.
Can I actually speak to that? Because we have a bunch of viewers who are enough years younger than we are that pop culture is very different for them than it is for us.
Interesting.
And if you know Woody Allen as the guy who does like funny comedies, ha ha ha, and then all of a sudden he did that movie Match Point, which was so dark.
You don't know Woody Allen.
You do not know Woody Allen. All of his movies are ostensibly comedies. Most of his movies are ostensibly comedies, but it is only in the past few years where he has done more than. I mean, Sleeper is just pure comedy, but other than that, they are not what you would think of when you would think of a comedy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Goes some really, really dark places.
Yeah.
I thought of another one. And it's another one that I would watch literally around the clock. I would just watch it all the time.
And then just feel bad about yourself?
Yes. No, this one I wouldn't. The Warriors, I feel bad about myself. This one, not so much. The movie is Arthur with Dudley Moore.
Not Arthur with Russell Brand?
Stunningly, I have not seen that movie.
I've seen that one more than I've seen the Dudley Moore one. Continue.
Oh, do you need a hug? I mean...
I feel pretty good about myself. I like Russell Brand. I think he's lovely. Go ahead.
I can't see how. Arthur is in the short list for funniest movies of all time for me. Okay. It is like I have to pause this several times per minute at points because I am laughing too hard. But it celebrates. Here's the moral of the story: as long as you are rich. Because it seems like the moral of the story is love conquers all, right? Because
right.
That's not really what happens, right? If you are rich, you can get away with basically anything.
Right.
Also, alcoholism is nothing but funny.
Which, yeah, I've known a lot of alcoholics. They just make me giggle.
That's problematic. But I mean, the lines in this movie. Like, you're a hooker? I thought I was just doing great with you. I mean, it's like... Sir John Gielgud, one of the finest Shakespearean actors of the 20th century, won an Oscar for the part of his butler.
Yeah.
Hobson, I'm going to take a bath. Just the driest delivery ever. Like, I'll alert the media. It's amazing. Right. It's just... Right. I could watch that movie all the time, and yet I don't love, I hope you're sitting down, alcoholism.
What? Or wait a minute.
Entitlement. Not a fan of either.
Yes. This is a barrier to our friendship.
I understand. Well, it has been nice knowing you.
Okay.
So that's...
are we... an end to our friendship, a barrier. Like, we've found a place we can't climb over, but we've done okay so far.
Okay. So can we call to each other? Phil?
Right. Yeah.
Phil?
It's just good to know these things. It's good to know.
So before we say goodbye,
you have a surprise for me.
For the week, I have a surprise for Phil because I am the one that posts these things. I am the one that so you get certain feedback, and one of the pieces of feedback, and I don't mean like, oh, great show. I mean like, your post has been uploaded successfully, like that kind of thing. This completes our 100th podcast.
Shut up.
I have goosebumps. I'm tearing up.
Oh, man.
I am so happy with how these have gone.
Yeah.
And let's be clear, we are much better at this now than when we started. I mean, we were awesome when we started.
You can be alone on that. I feel like I have, man, that's awesome. And you know what's really funny is I remember looking a while back at like how many uploaded there had been, and I was like, we're going to hit 100 at some point, and then I just forgot about it.
Just totally forgot.
Oh, I'm so happy. That's amazing. Hey, I'm glad it's a mailbag, first of all.
Yeah.
And I'm glad we're on the same time zone, and I'm glad. I'm just trying to delay the inevitable. I'm. Oh man, it's so good. It's so good to work with you. We have so much fun together.
I agree.
And it's really like a total one of my favorite things that I've ever done in my life.
And it's one of mine as well.
So
I guess, Second Breakfast Nation, thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for being a part of the first 100. And I hope that you have a wonderful weekend filled with things like we're schmooping about right now.
Andy?
Yeah?
I like you.
I like you.
No, I like you.
I like you.
I like you.
You know what? You know what this is? This is the toilet scene from Lethal Weapon 2.
Andy. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, guys.
Bail out, then.
What'd you say?
Let's bail out on the count of 3.
Wait. On 3 or after 3?
I think 3 and then go, or 1, 2, and then go on 3.
1, 2, and go, or 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and go.
That's 3?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Okay, like that.
So before we do that, this has been another week of Second Breakfast Podcast. I'm Andy Roth. That's Phil Duvall. We'll see you again next week where we start our second 100. Ready? 1, 2, 3.